Joe Martinez hooked a 90-pound bluefin tuna in Southern California on board the Amigo, fishing with Friedman Adventures. Let's see if he can land this one.
Stop right there, Joe. Go, go, go. Go. He's right here.
Nice job, buddy. Yeah!
Up over.
Nice. Textbook on a big bluefin tuna on 30-pound test. Nice going, Joe.
Fuck, dude. Yeah! Hey!
Oh my God! What a fish! Yeah! Woo! Hell yeah! Woo! Weighs as much as me.
That's really pushing too.
Thanks, Bill. Come on, got me out here, baby.
I got it.
What happened, man? You saved the rod? What happened, Ed?
Came out of my hand, bro.
Oh my God! How'd you save it?
These guys saved it.
Oh my God!
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, you're welcome,
How did you do that, Dave?
I swung my rod and grabbed it.
Oh my God! So give me this one more time again. His rod was tangled with a fish. It was going up the rail, and you used your rod to scoop it up.
Absolutely.
And then he grabbed it.
And then he grabbed it, and we saved the day.
You saved him about $1,000 is what you saved him.
Absolutely.
Nice job.
All right.
Hey, good Sunday morning, everybody. It is great to be with you all. It's absolutely gorgeous here in Surfside, California. We're here in Southern California, kind of sandwiched between Seal Beach and Huntington Beach, and it is a glorious morning. The sun is shining. It's already nice and warm early this morning, and there's absolutely no wind. And not only is it warm here on the beach, but it's still pretty red hot in certain areas when you find the fish. Yeah, it's hit and miss. There's no question about it. Some guys get a whole mess of bluefin, other guys get yellowfin. There's even a few more dorados showing up here recently. But all in all, we've got to feel blessed here in Southern California because it is some really, really excellent fishing. You know what time it is. It's time for me to take a sip of this coffee because my throat is getting all screwed up, and it's time for the morning briefing. Good morning, my friends. It's great to be with you. Don't forget to hit that like button, share these videos with a friend, tick that little bell. Hey man, you hear that? Tick that little bell and you'll be notified when there is new content. And of course, leave a comment down below. We deeply appreciate all your great support. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, moving up on 4 million views on YouTube alone, several million others on our social media, and we owe that all to you. Thank you so very, very much. I'm still on a high over that Amigo trip. That was a lot of fun. The people on board were great, and I'll be releasing more shorts throughout the day today and the coming days because there was so much that went on that great 2-day trip, Friedman Adventure trip on the Amigo out of 22nd Street Landing in San Pedro, California. I absolutely love fishing on the Amigo with Mark Paisano Jr. and her great crew. You just can't beat it. And you add all the great Friedman Adventure family members. I mean, the people who watch our podcast and come out on our trips. And man, I'll tell you, it doesn't get any better than that. Hey, lobster season is upon us. Those little devils are really expensive. If you go to the market, what are they, like 50 bucks a pound? So if you go out and catch 10 pounds of lobster, let me think about that now. My math is not all that great, but I think that's 500 bucks worth of lobster. So that is upon us, and it is a lot of fun. I know last year, Dana Wharf Sport Fishing, they invited me down for a lobster trip, and I was kind of, yeah, all right, whatever. And I went, and same thing, man, the crew on the boat, fantastic. Dana Wharf Sport Fishing, fabulous people down there, and I had the time of my life, and I got several of those 50 buck a pound langostas, so it's really great. And I could save you 10% in a couple of ways. Number one, down there at Big Fish Bait and Tackle in the beautiful city of Seal Beach, right on the corner of Seal Beach Boulevard and Pacific Coast Highway. If you walk in the door here right now and you mention Friedman Adventures, they'll throw you right out of the store. And they'll also give you 10% off on your lobster hoop net. So Big Fish Bait and Tackle. And also, if you'd rather do it online, just go to promarahi.com promarahi.com. You can order up a storm. Just make sure you put in Friedman 10, Friedman 10 at checkout for your 10% discount, and you'll be ready to rock and roll this coming weekend as the lobster season is definitely upon us. All right, let's go south of the border and talk offshore fishing. Let's just talk offshore fishing in general, because it really goes right now from, if you want to be honest about it, way down the Baja coast up to Fort Bragg and even north of there. But let's start down there in the Ensenada area and talk about offshore. We still have this off-colored algae bloom water. If you're in that, you're not going to catch. But the minute you pop out of it, man, you start to see all kinds of good signals, whether it's bonita marauding around and chasing bait, or bluefin or yellowfin, even a few more kelp patty dorado here recently. So off Ensenada, the pongeros down there can get you out, get you into some good fish. If they miss, the inshore bite remains really, really good. You have that mix of bonita, calico bass, sand bass, few barracuda still hanging out in the rockfish to help fill the sacks if you need to do that. And man, those things are great eating. So Ensenada, still very viable offshore and inshore. Man, they back it up with some awfully good fishing. And there's a whole bunch of guys down there you can fish with. Blackfin, sport fishing, Arnie's, sport fishing, Mara's, sport fishing, to name a few of the great operations with our hermanos y hermanas south of the border. And I think you'll have a great time down there. I always like going across the border. In fact, as I say to my kids once in a while, man, I'm in need of some Mexico time. Just that change, that different culture, the great food, the kind of more relaxed atmosphere. I'm almost ready for some of that. Just a day or two, maybe, and I'll be fine. All right, popping you across the border, the San Diego-based fleet, they are still finding some good action and then missing also. We'll start with the overnight and multi-day trips. It's a real finicky bite for most. Now, some guys are still coming up with limits of bluefin tuna, but most of these bites are occurring in what we call plunker bites. You know what that is, a prolonged period of time where you're catching a few fish. And that means, well, it means you got to really be tough. It means you've got to fish the fluorocarbon. www.opsonusa.com. 25 pounds sometimes is what you have to drop down to get a bite. Most of the time you don't want to get down below 30. And if you can get a bite on 60 pound, by all means do it. Because the one thing that is really difficult about this bite is that it's so mixed up. You might catch a 5-pound bluefin tuna, you might catch a 205-pound bluefin tuna, as John Garma did on board the Amigo, and we were there to capture it in video, and it was a dramatic moment. But John had that fish on the right gear. I'll get into that in a moment. So you've got to try to get a bite on the heaviest fluoro that you can and the biggest hook. Unfortunately, sometimes they're so finicky, they're biting on a smaller hook like a number 4, and they're biting 25, and you almost are praying for a smaller fish in that case, because you hook something over 100 pounds on 25, and you got your hands full. I'm not saying it's impossible. You can do it. Joe Martinez hooked a 90-pounder on 30-pound, and he battled that thing for about an hour, and it was kicking his butt. I mean, it was a tough, mean fish. And Joe eventually got it. He's a great angler, really good fisherman. Grace, I know you're proud of your husband. He does a great job. It's always good to see Joe on our trips. He'll be on our next Amigo 2-day trip. And so that's the fine line you are walking when you're trying to figure out what to do. And these are where your observational skills come into play. And if you're new to the game, this is where your handshake to the deckhand, making a connection on the way out, and then looking at him and saying, what do I do here? What do you think is the best thing to do? And they're going to give you such great advice because they're there every day and they see what is going on. So keep that all in mind. Again, kind of hit and miss. Let me give you a few scores here, and I'm going to give you scores from all up and down the coast. For example, the Blackfish, he's out of Newport, 6-pack yacht. Mitch runs that boat. 6 guys, 18 yellowfin, 2 bluefin, and a dorado fishing right here. We saw copious amounts of bluefin tuna just off the east end of Catalina Island. And it was exactly what I told you. You come out of that dirty water, get into the clean, and boom, you start seeing fish all over the place. The El Patron out of 22nd Street Landing in San Pedro, California. El Patron's a great little rig. I fish it a lot. Love fishing on there. Great crew and nice boat. They were close to limits on the bluefin tuna last time I checked, and a couple of yellowfin tuna. Malahini, now we're going to talk about one-day trips out of San Diego right now. Those trips that leave in the morning, come back in the afternoon. It was mixed yesterday. It was a little bit more hit and miss. Out of H&M, the Malahini, our good friend Bill Wilkerson, 39 Dorado. Pretty good hit on the flatheads for recent times. We haven't seen a lot of it. 15 bluefin tuna, 6 yellowfin tuna. The San Diego, tough day for them out of Seaforth. Leaving in the morning, coming back in the evening. 21 guys, 4 bluefin tuna. It's not for a lack of effort ever on that rig, I'll tell you that. Sea Watch, Seaforth Sport Fishing, 26 guys, 22 bluefin tuna, 7 yellowfin tuna, and a couple of Dorado. We saw some of the boats overnight guys with limits, multi-day guys with limits. The Cadillacs, those are the long-range boats. Those guys have been up there near limits. You have to work hard at it and scratch and scratch and scratch. Even at night, it's been very hit and miss. Now, I talked about that 205 that we had, or I should say John Garma had on board the Amigo. He got that almost just a little bit before daybreak, and he was fishing a knife jig, so that's where you got him on 100-pound with a 200-pound leader. And let me tell you, he's glad he had some heavy leader because that fish had that big knife jig, West Coast jiggers, I believe it was, down its throat. And man, John did a great job, and he was so happy when that fish came over the rail. Only one guy a little more happy than John, maybe me, because I love the guy. He's a great guy. I was so stoked to see him make such a spectacular catch. It was great. So nighttime, you got to have that heavy tackle. It gives you the advantage, and there's a lot of that buck 50 size bluefin tuna, all right, in that 100 to 150 pound range, and some a little bit bigger than that, as you could hear. Hit and miss on that nighttime bite. Hopefully that'll settle a little bit more as we go along. Pride, 22nd Street Landing in San Pedro, California. 2-day limits of bluefin tuna, 8 yellowfin tuna, and 1 lonely little flathead to go along with that. So still the offshore bite's pretty good. Now out in the Channel Islands, we continue to see copious amounts of bluefin tuna. In fact, the screen on the sonar of the Aloha Spirit just lit up with bluefin tuna. But unfortunately, those little devils didn't want to bite, and it's been that way up there. I mean, a good score up there here recently has been maybe 3 or 4 or 5 fish, but I'm telling you, there are fish there in the Channel Island area, out near Santa Barbara Island. There's been a lot of bluefin tuna near Catalina, down to the border. We still see albacore and big eye tuna being caught up at Fort Bragg when they get a weather window up there. There is a lot going on in our offshore season, and it is not over in a long shot. And this, in the fall, is when we get our best weather months. So keep that in mind, my friends. It's gorgeous weather, and I don't think we're through with the influx of fish that's moving up the coast. And I still haven't given up on our albacore. This water cools down a degree or 2 more, and it really doesn't even have to do that. But I could see a scenario where some algae push in here, especially with so many boats offshore. They're all looking around for bluefin, yellowfin, and other offshore species. They may jig across a little jag of algae one of these days. My fingers are still crossed because we predicted albacore this year. I know we caught maybe 10 fish if you count private boaters. That's not what we predicted. We predicted a decent run, at least several hundred fish. So my prediction's going down the drain once again. I'm hanging on for that. Islands are not being looked at all that much. Coronado Island's down there in San Diego. A few yellows and calico bass fishing's good. San Clemente Island, we see a few yellows and calico bass, but a lot of sea lions out there. Catalina Island, some whitefish and sheep's head, occasional yellowtail, and okay calico bass fishing. And we already covered the Channel Islands. You kind of know what's going on there. Coastal down there in San Diego, still decent bass fishing. A lot of shorts there for the 1/2 and 3/4 day boats in that neck of the woods. Same thing for Dana Wharf and surrounding areas like Oceanside. They're catching whitefish and sheep's head up here in the LA Orange County area. The boys out of here, they get a chance to look at this bluefin tuna. It's fairly close right now, but most of them are focused in on catching whitefish and sheep's head and deep water rock fishing. Man, I'll tell you, in the city of Long Beach, what they have, 420 whitefish and 50 plus sheep's head? I mean, that's great action and really good fishing. Remember, when you're catching smaller whitefish, lighter line and small hooks, and you'll rail on them, and they're great eating. So there is some pretty good stuff going on in terms of that up there in Marina del Rey. Redondo, good rock fishing up there. A few bass, and at times their twilight bite there out of MDR is really good on the bass up there in that neck of the woods. Up on the Island Spirit, phenomenal whitefish and sheepshead fishing from my friend Cody Rogers out of Ventura Harbor Sport Fishing. 805-676-3474. You'd be wise to fish out of that landing where customer service is so good and the fishing is excellent also. Tucker McCombs, Cody Rogers, Steve Virtue, all kinds of great people like Saul up there in the office. It's great stuff. I know you're going to love it if you get up there out of that neck of the woods. Up there out of Santa Barbara, Stardust, with good bottom fishing going on up there also. On our surf fishing, still picking off a few corby. Now this water is a little bit off color. I don't know what's been going on behind me during this report, but when I first came down here, saw a lot of birds picking bait out of the surf. That's always a very good sign. And it's also a good time to be throwing something that mimics that bait fish that's in the water, or whether it's bait fish or fry or whatever it is. You know, a little chrome crocodile is a really good idea when you see that going on. Like 3/4 ounce, toss it out there, wind it back, vary your speeds to see what those yellowfin, croaker, halibut, and even an occasional perch. Water's a little too warm for that right now, but you can see some of that going on. There's also, well, there's a guy down there fishing the beach in an area that can be very productive for yellowfin croaker and spotfin croaker, or a little bait fish, when you're fishing spotfin, you want to fish with bait. And I love these sandworms you dig up, sand crabs. Or you can go to Big Fish Bait and Tackle in the beautiful city of Seal Beach on the corner of PCH and Seal Beach Boulevard, where if you match at Friedman Adventures, they toss you right out of there. And they also give you a 10% discount on all your lobster gear. Don't forget, my friends, that they have all your bait needs taken care of, all your surf fishing tackle needs, as well as big game stuff in addition to that. Big game, big fish, bait and tackle right here in Seal Beach, California. You can walk there in about 15 minutes, 10 minutes. It's a great place. I hope you get by to check it out. All right, don't forget, my friends, we're going to continue to watch this all very, very closely for you on this absolutely gorgeous Sunday morning. I hope you get to spend it with family and friends, and I hope you get to poke your nose outdoors. I know a lot of you guys are watching football. Yes, speaking of football, I was busy last night. I didn't even watch the Notre Dame game, but I was watching on my phone, and oh my God, dagger right in the heart on that one. My kids, I don't even know, if I should dial 911 or what. They were texting me during the game when Notre Dame was up 14-10, and then I haven't heard a word since. I even sent them a message like, oh, that was a tough loss, and just nothing. I hope they're okay. It was Patrick's birthday yesterday, as you well know. He wanted a Notre Dame win. He didn't get that. But it looked like Ohio State came back there in the end and really punched it in for the winning TD on the last play of the game. All right, anyway, I digress. Don't forget to hit that like button, please. Share these videos with a friend. Tick that bell. You'll be notified when there's new content. And leave a comment down below. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Almost 4 million views. I'll have a Walk with Phil Day coming up shortly. Sam De La Torre tomorrow night. Tackle Box Confessions. Danny Cadota Thursday night. Danny will be back. We were on a charter last time. And who knows what will happen in between. As always, it's such a pleasure to spend time with each and every one of you. Can't thank you enough for all you do to make Friedman Adventures the real deal. It's all due to your great support. Have a wonderful, beautiful, lovely Sunday, and I hope to see you really, really soon.